After my husband's funeral, I went to my nephew's first birthday party. Mid-cake, my sister-in-law stood up, held a folder like a trophy, and announced, "My son is your husband's true heir. As inheritance, he will take half of your $8 million house." She even showed me his will. I said, "Oh, I see." And I tried to hold back my laughter. Because my husband, Robert, prepared for this exact greed years before he died. My name is Mara Ellison. I am 48 years old. I was a nurse for 20 years and a wife for 19. This is a family revenge story dressed as an inheritance lesson. No violence. Only paper, timestamps, and a woman who mistook my grief for weakness. If you have ever watched relatives become vultures before the flowers wilted, stay with me. This story is for anyone who has been handed a document in a room full of cake and expected to shrink. Robert died on a gray Tuesday in March after a long fight with a disease that steals dignity in inches. We had time to say what mattered. We had time to sign what mattered. People think death is only emotion. Death is also administration. Robert hated unfinished administration the way I hated uncharted meds. He was not a rich man in the cartoon sense. He was careful. Cedar Crest, our house on the hill with the oak that scratched the guest room window, appreciated while we were busy living. By the time appraisers used numbers that made relatives blink, the house sat near $8 million in a market that rewarded patience. Robert never bragged about it. Bragging invites hands. 3 weeks after the funeral, I almost stayed home from the birthday party. Grief makes crowds feel like theft. But Theo, my nephew, was 1 year old, and Robert had loved him with the soft pride of an uncle who never got to be loud about love. Cole, Robert's brother, called and said the family needed normal. Normal is a word people use when they want you present for their agenda. I arrived with a wrapped wooden puzzle and a face that could pass for okay in photographs. Gwen, Cole's wife, hugged me too hard and too long, the hug of a person performing closeness for an audience. She wore black accents like grief accessories. I told myself I was being unkind. Grief makes me suspicious. Suspicion is sometimes just pattern recognition late to the party. The house smelled like frosting and baby wipes. Kids ran sticky circles. Adults drank punch that pretended to be festive. I sat near the window with a plate I did not eat from, watching Theo smash cake with both hands, pure and unstrategic. I thought about Robert's last good week, when he asked me to open the window so he could hear the oak. He said, "Do not let anyone turn our life into a fundraiser for their personality." I kissed his forehead and said I would not. I did not know the test would arrive with balloons. Then Gwen tapped a glass. She has a voice for announcements, the kind that assumes the room is already hers. "Before we sing," she said, "we need a family moment of truth. For Robert." My stomach went cold. Cole looked at his shoes. That is how you know a man has been rehearsed. Gwen opened a folder and held up a document with a signature that looked enough like Robert's to fool people who wanted to be fooled. "Robert wanted little Theo protected," she said. "He told me in private. Men open up to me. As his bloodline through Cole, Theo is entitled to half the Ellison house on Cedar Crest. Mara, I know this is hard. But family is family." She said my name like a speed bump. Every face turned. Pity, hunger, discomfort, entertainment, the full human buffet. I felt the old nurse calm arrive, the calm of triage when the hallway is loud and the patient is quiet. I said, "Oh, I see. May I look at the document?" Gwen hesitated, then handed it over because refusal would look guilty. I read fast. Nurses read fast when seconds matter. Dates wrong in one place. Witness line incomplete. Notary stamp that looked like it had been friends with a printer. Robert's signature almost right, except the R. Robert's R had a particular hitch from a broken finger in college. This was smooth, confident, fake. I almost laughed. Not because pain is funny. Because Robert had predicted this exact scene in our kitchen 2 years earlier, with tea and a legal pad. I remember his words. If I go first, Gwen will try something. She loves rooms. She loves being the person who reveals. Promise me you will not perform shock for her. Promise me you will call Adler and let the trust do what trusts do. Mr. Adler was our estate attorney, a dry man who collects fountain pens and dislikes drama the way surgeons dislike dirty hands. Robert funded a revocable living trust years ago, then made it effectively strong when his diagnosis arrived. The Cedar Crest house was transferred into the trust. I was successor trustee and sole lifetime beneficiary. Upon my death, remaining value went to a nursing scholarship fund Robert designed, not to whoever shouted blood the loudest at a child's party. Theo was listed for a separate education gift, already funded, because Robert was generous without being stupid. There was a will, too, a pour-over will, properly witnessed, properly notarized, filed where adults file things. What Gwen held was not that. I handed her paper back carefully, as if it might stain Theo's cake. Thank you for sharing this, I said. I will have our attorney review it on Monday. Today is Theo's birthday. We should sing. Gwen's smile faltered. She wanted tears. She wanted a scene. She wanted me small. Cole muttered, maybe we should talk privately. I said, privately is how forged courage thrives. Public is fine. Cake is better. We sang. I heard my own voice as if from a hallway. Theo laughed. Children are the only honest people at some parties. I left early with a polite headache. In the car I called Adler. He answered on a Saturday like a man who bills fare and sleeps lightly. I described the document. He said, photograph everything if you can. Do not accuse yet. Bring it Monday. And Mara, do not stay in a house alone tonight if you feel unsafe. Fraudsters escalate when paper fails. I stayed with my friend June. June made soup and did not ask me to narrate my trauma for entertainment. I slept 3 hours and woke with the strange energy of a woman about to stop being polite. Monday, 9 a.m., Adler's office smelled like paper and raincoats. He examined Gwen's document under better light than a birthday living room. Within 20 minutes he said, this will not survive a clerk's glance, let alone a court. By noon he had pulled the recorded trust transfer for Cedar Crest. By 2 he had a letter ready, cease claims, preserve evidence, potential referral for forgery and fraud if she persisted. I asked if I should warn Cole. Adler said, warn the process, not the performers. I sat in his lobby afterward and shook, not from fear, from the release of not having to pretend Gwen's speech was love. Tuesday, Gwen texted, we should keep this among family. Lawyers make everything ugly. I replied with Adler's office number and a single sentence, family does not forge. Wednesday, Cole called crying. He said Gwen told him Robert had promised Theo the house in a private conversation Cole never heard. He said he felt caught. I said, then choose now. Cake or crime? He went quiet, then, she made me feel like we were protecting the baby. I said, protecting a baby with a fake will is not protection. It is auditioning for a worse story. Thursday, Adler sent the formal letter. Friday, Gwen tried the family group chat, a novel of victimhood. I did not debate paragraphs. I posted one photo of the recorded trust summary, personal numbers redacted, and wrote, Robert loved Theo. Robert also loved law. The education gift stands. The house claim does not. Any further claims go through counsel. The chat died the special death of exposed plots. 2 weeks later, Gwen attempted a softer approach at a coffee shop she just happened to enter when I was there. Mara, she said, we are grieving differently. I said, grief does not notarize fiction. She whispered that she was drowning in debt, that Cole's business was failing, that the house was huge for one woman. I felt a flash of pity and did not let it become a deed transfer. I said, if you need help, ask for help without weapons. I can honor the education fund path Robert already built for Theo. I will not offer you half my home because you practiced a speech over frosting. She left the coffee cold. That night I walked every room of Cedar Crest and said Robert's name out loud like a roll call the house already knew. I should tell you about the night Robert and I built the trust language, because the birthday ambush was only the public chapter. It was February, 2 years before he died. Rain on the windows. He had just received a scan that made time feel expensive. He said, Mara, Cole married a woman who collects advantages. If I am gone, she will test you. I said, maybe grief will make her kind. He smiled the sad smile. Grief makes people more of what they are. We spent 3 evenings with Adler. Robert transferred the house. He funded Theo's education gift with a separate account so no one could claim the baby was forgotten. He wrote me a letter I was instructed to open only if someone made a show. I opened it the night of the party, at June's guest room, hands shaking. The letter said, if you are reading this, someone performed. Do not perform back. Call Adler. Feed the cat. Remember I loved you in the boring ways that keep you safe. I slept with that letter under the pillow like a shield. Cole filed for separation that winter. I do not celebrate marriages ending. I notice when lies become too heavy for a shared last name. Theo still gets birthday puzzles from me. He will get the education gift when the time is right. He never needed to be a chess piece. Gwen moved to another city and told a new circle she had been wronged by a wealthy sister-in-law. I let the rumor travel without my chase. Chasing rumors is unpaid labor. I returned to part-time nursing shifts because skill is a kind of prayer I still believe in. Patients do not care about your square footage. They care if your hands are steady. Some Sundays I open Robert's legal pad, the one from the kitchen table talks. His handwriting lists, trust, education gift, letter for Mara, tell her not to perform. I trace the words with a finger and understand that love is not only flowers. Love is paperwork that protects the living from the hungry. Love is predicting the room where someone will try to turn your mourning into their mortgage. On the anniversary of the party, I baked nothing. I donated to the nursing scholarship instead. Quiet anniversaries are still anniversaries. If someone waves a will at you while you are still wearing funeral sleep in your eyes, hear me. Do not perform the shock they need. Say, oh, I see. Call the attorney. Trust timestamps more than tears. Ask for the original, the witnesses, the notary book, the recording stamp. And remember, the people who truly love the dead rarely need a child's birthday as a stage. There were other moments after the letter that people skip when they want only the viral beat. The first Sunday I returned to Cedar Crest alone, the oak scratched the glass like a familiar animal. I made Robert's tea the way he liked it, too strong, and poured it out after it cooled because ritual is not the same as belief in ghosts. I opened the drawer where we kept takeout menus and found a sticky note in his hand, Adler of Gwen. I laughed for real then, short and grateful. Cole asked to meet at a park, not a house, as if neutral ground could make him neutral. He said Gwen told him the document was a draft Robert wanted to discuss. He said he felt stupid. I said, feeling stupid is cheaper than becoming a co-conspirator. Stay on the side of the living truth. He nodded. He brought Theo the next month so I could give the wooden puzzle in person. Theo gummed the corner. That was the only inheritance performance I will ever endorse. Adler advised me not to pursue criminal charges unless Gwen escalated. She did not escalate. People like Gwen escalate when the room applauds. Our room had gone quiet. Quiet is a consequence too. I sorted Robert's coats. I donated what still had warmth left for strangers. In the pocket of a gray jacket I found a movie ticket from our last date night before the scan, comedy, 2 seats, his handwriting on the back, still us. I keep that ticket in my wallet behind my license. If anyone asks why I chose law over family theater, I can show them a ticket that says still us and a trust that kept the promise when mouths did not. I want to slow down on the morning after the party, because virality likes the laugh line and life likes the coffee that tastes like metal. I stood in June's kitchen in yesterday's blouse and watched steam rise from a mug I did not want. June said, "You do not have to be elegant about this." I said, "Elegance is how I keep from screaming in front of a 1-year-old." She nodded. Good nurses understand controlled pressure. I drove past Cedar Crest before Adler's office and did not go in. The windows looked the same. Predators prefer interiors. At Adler's, while he examined the fake will, I counted the pens on his desk to stay inside my body. Blue, black, a ridiculous green. Robert would have mocked the green. Adler said my name twice before I heard him. "Mara, this is fraud. Not family. Do not let vocabulary confuse you." On the way home I bought cat food even though our cat died the year before Robert got sick. Grief makes you shop for ghosts. I left the bag at a shelter and cried in a way the birthday room never earned. The formal letter went out. Then the waiting. Waiting after a public ambush is its own weather. Neighbors who had been at the party suddenly found my sidewalk interesting. One brought banana bread and a question shaped like concern, "Is it true about the house?" I said, "The house is where it has always legally been. Would you like the recipe for something that is not gossip?" She left with the bread still warm. Coal separation was not my victory. It was the collapse of a story Gwen could no longer staff with his silence. He sent a short message months later, "I am sorry I looked at my shoes." I replied, "Look at your son instead. Teach him that documents are not toys." I started a box labeled Robert, Practical Love. Inside, the legal pad, the letter, the trust summary, the movie ticket, a photo of us at 30 looking like we invented ordinary happiness. When young widows online ask what to do first, I do not say take a bath and journal, though those help. I say, secure the papers, then feel the feelings. Feelings without papers become other people's opportunities. There was a moment, months later, when Gwen's mother called me. She said her daughter was always dramatic, that she was embarrassed, that she hoped I could forgive. I said, forgiveness is not a deed. The house is not a therapy tool. If Gwen wants repair, she can start with truth in writing to Adler, not with soft phone calls to me. The line went quiet. Soft networks hate hard sentences. I plant tulips at Cedar Crest every fall now. Robert liked the ones that come up even after hard freezes. I like metaphors that do work in dirt. If you are sitting with a fake document in your hands and a room full of eyes, borrow my line. "Oh, I see." Then leave. Then call. Then let paper finish what performance started. I want to slow down on the morning after the party, because virality likes the laugh line and life likes the coffee that tastes like metal. I stood in June's kitchen in yesterday's blouse and watched steam rise from a mug I did not want. June said, "You do not have to be elegant about this." I said, "Elegance is how I keep from screaming in front of a 1-year-old. She nodded. Good nurses understand controlled pressure. I drove past Cedar Crest before Adler's office and did not go in. The windows looked the same. Predators prefer interiors. At Adler's, while he examined the fake will, I counted the pens on his desk to stay inside my body. Blue, black, a ridiculous green. Robert would have mocked the green. Adler said my name twice before I heard him. "Mara, this is fraud. Not family. Do not let vocabulary confuse you." On the way home I bought cat food even though our cat died the year before Robert got sick. Grief makes you shop for ghosts. I left the bag at a shelter and cried in a way the birthday room never earned. The formal letter went out. Then the waiting. Waiting after a public ambush is its own weather. Neighbors who had been at the party suddenly found my sidewalk interesting. One brought banana bread and a question shaped like concern: "Is it true about the house?" I said, "The house is where it has always legally been. Would you like the recipe for something that is not gossip?" She left with the bread still warm. Cole's separation was not my victory. It was the collapse of a story Gwen could no longer staff with his silence. He sent a short message months later: "I am sorry I looked at my shoes." I replied, "Look at your son instead. Teach him that documents are not toys." I started a box labeled Robert, Practical Love. Inside, the legal pad, the letter, the trust summary, the movie ticket, a photo of us at 30 looking like we invented ordinary happiness. When young widows online ask what to do first, I do not say take a bath and journal, though those help. I say, secure the papers, then feel the feelings. Feelings without papers become other people's opportunities. There was a moment, months later, when Gwen's mother called me. She said her daughter was always dramatic, that she was embarrassed, that she hoped I could forgive. I said, forgiveness is not a deed. The house is not a therapy tool. If Gwen wants repair, she can start with truth in writing to Adler, not with soft phone calls to me. The line went quiet. Soft networks hate hard sentences. I plant tulips at Cedar Crest every fall now. Robert liked the ones that come up even after hard freezes. I like metaphors that do work in dirt. If you are sitting with a fake document in your hands and a room full of eyes, borrow my line. "Oh, I see." Then leave. Then call. Then let paper finish what performance started. "My name is Mara Ellison." She announced half my house over cake. I almost laughed, because Robert had already moved the house beyond her reach, and left me the map. This is a shocking family secret that was not a secret to the man who prepared. It was only a surprise to the woman who thought grief made me easy. If this story met you in a season of vultures, you are not heartless for choosing law. You are faithful to the person who planned for your survival. Subscribe for more family betrayal stories and quiet justice. Comment: would you have laughed, left, or called the lawyer from the driveway?